All right, welcome back to the Sean Trace Show. I have a really interesting guest today, Mr. Nick Rizzini. Nick, welcome to the podcast. Can
Thank
you
you for having
tell?
me.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell my guest a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name is Nick Rizzini. I'm originally from Italy. I live in London, and I'm a filmmaker now.
That's awesome. How long have you been a filmmaker?
Well, I studied acting, so I started with acting. That's why I said now, and I transitioned slowly into filmmaking. First writing, and then I started trying out everything like camera work and production and all of that. And so I don't know, like probably 5 years, 6 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 5 years, 6 years when it's the first time I pick up the camera and I did a video or something.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a fan. I had seen some of your work online, and I wanted to reach out to you because I had seen some of the buzz around your movie Framed, which
Thank
I
you.
watched, and I love it, man. Can you tell me a little bit about your movie Framed?
Well, what can I tell you? That's my first feature film, so it was a big mountain to climb in
Right.
all aspects. Even because I've wrote it, I directed it, and I produced it, and it's a micro budget, so it was tough to to bring alive.
With a micro budget, do you mind if I ask, in
Yeah.
what range of price was it at?
It was. I mean, they told me not to say it, but I've written it down on an article, so you can
Okay.
find the actual number. But it's
I'll
better
go
not to
look.
say.
All right, I'll go look. So it's within a certain realm that is with a micro budget. You are looking at, you know, in our original email, one of the things that you had said that was really interesting, and you were talking about forced creativity versus or how did you frame it? What did you say again? What was it?
I think I said free creativity, but I mean it's
Free
difficult to
cre-
understand. Yeah,
Yeah, free creativity versus, creativity based on necessity. Now,
exactly. So
go
the
ahead.
free is not related with money, but it's related with time.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's so like, I write as well, and I love, and who wouldn't like to create something that's outdoors where you have 300 extras, that'd be fun, to write that. But
Exactly.
But when you are getting into shooting, it's a whole different story. Now, what were some of the challenges that you faced? First of all, I made notes, and I wanted to point out a couple things. One of the things that I really noticed, and I'd love to ask you about, is you have a great script. We've got to start with that foundation. And I'm not going to give away anything for people who haven't seen the movie, but one of the things that I noticed, it was very Hitchcock-esque. Very similar to, I got elements of do you remember Rear Window by Hitchcock?
Yep.
Extremely reminded me of that. Now, were you inspired by Rear Window at all?
Well, there's a funny anecdote because when I was writing it, one of my friends that read the first draft or second draft, something like that, said, "Oh, well, it's similar to Rear Window," and I'm like, "Okay, I haven't seen Rear Window before. I need to see it." And
Yeah.
all these different movies, even like Body Double by Brian De Palma,
Yeah.
came up to me, or Blow by Antonioni, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Okay, I need to go and check these movies out because." I don't want to make something that is similar or that is a copy of that. And
Yeah.
I mean, even though it would be really difficult to do a copy of one
Right.
of those movies, but so initially when I started, the reason I've thought of a concept like similar to Rare Window is because I needed to have a script that was possible to be produced with little money. So I thought of one location.
Exactly. And then
Exactly.
that's one of the things I noticed because I watched this when I study screenwriting, and one of the things that my professor said was to look at, you can watch a movie as just a person enjoying the movie, or you can watch a movie as a filmmaker. And as a filmmaker, I was watching and I was like, there were notes that I made that were really, and one of the things that I noticed was, it was very simple locations. It looks like you were in one building for his home,
Yeah.
and and then there was a stairwell that was utilized. There was a courtyard,
Yeah.
and it was really well done. But it was really, really simple locations. Now, how did you find that location? Was it an easy thing to find that?
Well, that was one of the hardest thing because we needed like obviously an apartment, a courtyard, and another flat on
With
the other side.
for the flat on the other side, yeah.
Exactly. So I had to gamble at one point because I was like, there is the only way that can I find this location, and I rented out this apartment for the main location that I knew that it was the big part of the film,
Yeah.
and I knew that I had a courtyard to look to, and but I needed to find the other flat.
Yeah.
So I went door to door to each neighbor, and I was like, "Listen, we're doing a film. Can we shoot here?" And I found a lovely lady that allowed us to shoot in her flat,
That's so
and
awesome.
it was really difficult to find. Actually, I was scared that I wouldn't have found it.
Locations are something that people often forget about. There are, it's a thing that is can be really wonderful, but also extremely challenging, especially and because you have to have a line of sight from that window to the other window for your film to work. So, wow,
Exactly.
I was
And a
thinking,
good one because you can have an angle that is like too much, and you
it,
can't see enough.
and also it was the apartment itself had beautiful angles. There were some really some of the arching I don't know, the buttresses, the roof was really nicely arched, and the stairwell was extremely picturesque. It was I was just like looking, I was like, what a great location to shoot. It was really, really nice.
Yeah.
But that was also paired with something else that I noticed. The cinematography was exceptional. Can you tell me about that? Did you have a great DOP? Was that a lot of your influence? How did that play out?
Well, most of the people that worked in the film, I needed to find online, and because I don't come from a film school, or I don't have like a lot of experiences, let's say,
Yeah.
I needed to advertise the job opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really lucky to find this guy that is called Matteo Rea. It's an Italian as well,
Yeah.
and imagine that the job was posted in London,
Yeah.
and he's like living in Rome, where I'm from,
Oh, really?
and he basically like we really got on straight away. We
That's awesome.
understood, like he understood the film, what I wanted to do, and everything. We
Yeah.
talked. It was an amazing experience, like to actually become friends, because now we're friends with him, and do the film together. It was amazing, and he's super talented. So it was really,
Exceptionally. And it was
yeah,
it was what I noticed is first of all, I noticed that the shot style, there was this really interesting mixture, and I'm guessing from what I saw, I don't know what gear you were using, but there was a balance between handheld and it looks like quite a bit of some dolly shots or sliders of some sorts, because there were
yeah.
these really smooth transitions, just a slight little pushing in, and I was just like, oh, ooh, that's nice, mixed in with some really nice handheld stuff. Now, what type of cameras and gear were you shooting on?
So we shot with the Blackmagic Ursa Mini, and
Okay,
that's what we
nice
could have
camera.
got, and
Yeah,
we had like really good lenses as well.
yeah,
But we were limited in terms of lights and
mm-hmm,
equipment, and because I didn't have much money, so I needed to make a choice,
yeah,
and I wanted to give some money that is obviously wasn't enough for what they would have got, but to the head of department,
yeah,
and that obviously brought the budget for the equipment down.
yeah,
So we had this idea of trying to rent as much equipment from Amazon, like really, really low budget equipment,
yeah,
and trying to work with that. And we worked with natural light as well. And so we didn't have much really to do a lot, and we had to
yeah.
be creative. And that's probably where it comes, the creativity, when you don't have enough time, when you don't have enough resources, you have to
Yeah.
kind of make up for it and come with an idea. So
Yep.
that's how we did it. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to innovate. There are workarounds. There's always a workaround if you're willing to take some risks. Well, I was extremely impressed with that, and but there was something else. I try to explain to my friends when I look and approach filmmaking. You have certain things that you have to have. You have to have there's good camera work. Mm-hmm. There's a good script. Locations are extremely important. Good sound, and good acting. And the actors were phenomenal. How did you go about finding your actors? And I mean, one of the actors I believe was Ben Kingsley's son, which is pretty interesting in and of itself. Yeah. So tell me about how you went about casting and that process, if you don't mind.
So at the beginning, but for me, acting was really important because I was coming from an acting background, and I knew that would have been something that would have made the difference, especially in a film that you have not much going on apart from their discussions and their real acting.
Yeah,
so
it is dialogue heavy, and and making a dialogue heavy movie work, you have to have great actors. So sorry to interrupt. Yeah.
It's really difficult because you need to have good acting, good writing, and all of that.
Yeah.
And my idea initially was to try to cast them myself. So I started very early, and we started with posting online in some websites, and I started to see actors. And I did find the two main guys. I was concentrating on the two main guys for the film, and I did find them. Yeah. Then a month or a month and a half before shooting, the guy that was supposed to do the main role, he dropped out. He didn't feel that it was the right thing for him, so he didn't want to do it. So I felt like I was I need to find somebody that is the main character of the
disaster
film.
mode at that point. I'm like,
exactly. In a month, and I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So I needed to get a casting director.
Yeah.
Even because I don't know if you know, here in the UK we have Spotlight, right?
Yes.
I don't know if you know, it's a portal for actors to get jobs and everything. And I thought, as an actor, okay, well, when I'm making my film, I can advertise the role in Spotlight and find some actors. But unfortunately, I couldn't because I didn't have. They would let the casting directors do it, or experienced directors to post a job. But it was my first feature film, so I couldn't do it. And I was so angry because I was like, I need good actors, and my only chance, is to advertise the job and see them and give them the opportunity to be in the film and all of that. If you don't allow me to do that,
how can you do it, right?
Exactly. Well, I had to go through with a casting director, and we found all the other roles that were missing, and one of them is the son of Ben Kingsley, the main character, Tom, and the girl that plays the girl, let's say of the window, the woman on that side, and but so I was really scared, and I actually confirmed the main actor 3 days before shooting.
Oh man.
So I was ready to do it myself, and that it would have been a disaster, obviously. But I was like, I have everything ready to shoot apart from the protagonist. So I was like, okay, I need to try to do it if obviously I don't manage to get him. But luckily we got him at the last moment, and he saved us.
That's amazing. You know, wow, down to the wire. That's really that's wild. Now, what is your process of directing actors? Because you come from an acting background. What is your process? How did it feel being on the other side in your first feature? How did you approach your directing process?
Well, I think I started from the casting, but one thing I wanted it was to be able to read the lines with the actors. I didn't want anybody else to read the lines with the actors. Mainly because as an actor, I know that sometimes you end up having to act with somebody that is not really an actor, or is not really interested, or he's doing the scene over and over, and it's not easy. You want to create the best environment for the actor to give its best, because you want to cast the proper person for the role. And so I decided to read. That is difficult, because when you read, you are not able to actually see as much as you are trying to to give the lines in a certain way, so they would respond to that in the way that you are thinking that the character would be like, because at the end it's an idea that you have as a writer,
Yeah.
and so I did that. And then I read through the script. I talked a lot to them about what I thought it was, the film about. Even because I think the story, there's a lot of risk in the story to make it in a way that it would be a moral play. It wouldn't work. You had to really measure the intention of the two main characters. Otherwise, it could have been not the movie that I wanted to make. And that was my main focus.
And that was a question as I was watching, and I want to let you finish about your directing, but
yeah,
the question I have right here in the middle of my notes was, what is the theme? What are you trying to convey with this story? And I want to come back to that. So finish your directing. How then did you continue to approach that?
So should I finish the directing thing?
Let's wherever you want to go. Wherever you want to go.
No, I want to say, because you asked me a really nice question that was formulated in a way that it's not what is the movie about, but what is the theme. Yeah. And what I can tell you is what I wanted to see. So when you write a film, I've listened to many writers that said, okay, you can try and write something that you would want to watch. Right?
That's a good point.
And what I wanted to watch from the film I made, it was the conversation that they had. So I wanted to put this man, a good-hearted man, in an uncomfortable situation for what he was doing. He was doing something that was dodgy, it wasn't really moral, and I wanted to see the conversation that was coming out from him and his friend that had a completely opposite view of what he was doing. And that was what really intrigued me about the film. So that's really my motivation for doing it, for telling this story,
And the character was really like, that was one of the things in the scene with the detective, where the detective was like, did you take these photos? And I was thinking, man, I might say no. I don't know. There might be a lot of people that'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, But he was. It was just this very genuine character, and it was very well written. And then, looking at his, it was almost like a loss of innocence. It was this, as he looked through the camera, he was exploring the world. There wasn't this person. It was just like, oh, whoa, this kid who has this camera, who sees things and is now in a world that is bigger than he thought. There's more. If you had have come to this kid in the beginning and told him, what this woman's intention was, he might have been like, whoa, I'm overwhelmed with that. But he dives into this. He's swimming in water that's much deeper than he was anticipating, if you know what I mean.
He's naive. He's like he's exploring himself, and I think it should be the journey of an artist, because he wants to be an artist at the end. But he's really early in what it could be his career. Like, he's exploring, and that's, I think, what the approach that he has. It's completely out of finding something interesting in the situation, in what's going on, and
one of the interesting tools that you used, seemingly, was you set the stage with him leaving the job. You set the stage, and that's the way you shot that, with this extreme. I believe there was an extreme close up, and it was just very, like the man was just like overbearing. When you leave a job, and then it almost felt like. To me, one of the things that I kind of visualized was this man setting sail, leaving land, and setting sail on this boat, because it was almost like his apartment was this boat that he was sailing into the unknown, and then it was like there was this storm, and can he survive? Is he gonna sink? And so, very, very well done. I was really, really interested in that. I want to ask one other thing: the audio. the sound was quite well done. How did you guys approach sound? Were you using a boom mic, and soundtrack and stuff? How did you approach that?
We had a boom mic and we had lav mics as well, but we had an amazing recorder. To be honest, I mean, we barely had any problems in post, and it was really well done. And
Really
that's
well done.
another thing that it was really important, because obviously it's all about the conversation, and we were shooting in a quite central area as well.
Yeah.
And it was obviously very noisy, so we had
Yeah.
to stop a couple of times, but we managed to go through. But even because we shot most of the scenes at night,
Okay.
and so it was quite quiet. Yeah.
That's usually because I didn't hear much background noise. I didn't hear anything. And that's something that sometimes I'll see with micro budget productions. A lot of people will go for, I got a great DOP, I've got the great cinematography, they spend the money here, but then people often forget that sound is so important to films. And did you hire someone to compose the soundtrack, or how did you
Yes.
go at that? Because it was very it very reminded me of Amelie to a degree. It was well done. So.
I loved it. I loved working on with the composer.
Yeah.
Umberto Smerilli is an Italian. Well, there's a lot of Italian in the
Hey, it's great,
in the
man.
production. But yeah, I loved working with him, and I spent a year editing. That was one of the longest process, let's say, to make the film. And then during the summer, I did the coloring, the soundtrack, and the audio.
Did you do all the post yourself for the editing
No.
and color? Okay.
No. I did. I edited with this editor. It's called Marco Benassi.
Yeah.
And after that, I went, obviously, as a director and producer. I went and followed the coloring and the soundtrack.
Coloring was beautifully done as well. It was very rich. I have a Blackmagic. I have the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, and I know that getting the color dialed in is an art. It is not. It is not something that's simple. And you guys had phenomenal color. You were running only one camera most of the time, right?
Yeah, well, I wanted to have more camera, but the DOP said to me, "No way."
It's tricky to control. You got to have double, extra people and all that. But
Yeah, well, even because for the lighting, if you're lighting something, then
entirely. You got to figure out your lighting changes. Well, that's
And
really.
we didn't
neat.
have much space as well, and it was so hot that summer. We were really lucky with the weather. Like,
Yeah.
if I think about the whole experience, I was really, really lucky with a lot of things, because being in the UK, it could have been raining most days.
Yeah.
It could have been, but yeah, it was really hot that summer, and we were a lot of people in a flat. We wouldn't be able to do it now with COVID, for sure.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, COVID has definitely changed the film making, the industry, and that's going to be.
Yeah.
We'll see how things shift, but it will be, hopefully people will still be able to make, good micro budget features and just, adapt to the times. But it's really interesting. How did you tackle your promotion of the film? How did you, so post is done. How did you get it out there? What was your strategy for getting this film out there? Did you go the festival route? Did you just try to get it on streaming? What was your goal?
So my idea was to try to. I don't think it was a film that could have gone into the major festival, but I wanted to try in any case, and so I've sent it to obviously the big ones and Sundance and Cannes, but it was obviously a micro budget that wouldn't have probably not the quality, but like the whole production wasn't good enough for that festivals. But I wanted to give it a try, and then after that I tried to at the same time to contact distributors, and I found Indie Rights, that is our distributor, and they seemed really good with what we were doing, honest, because that's one of the biggest problem with distribution. You need to find somebody that is honest.
Yeah.
And so like they seemed honest. I looked at a lot of interviews, or I read a lot about them, and I was like, okay, you know what, I wanna go with them, and and I went with them. Really nice. We came out on Amazon on subscription. In all, and like I can't remember the number, but a lot of English-speaking countries, and in Italy as well, because I wanted to show it to obviously the family and friends in Italy. It was good to go with them for the project that it is, and of the situation. I couldn't open in a cinema. We were like in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah. So exactly, and when did you release it?
So the 21st of April 2021. So what is it? 4 months ago? Yeah.
4 months ago. Yeah. Still got a lot going on with COVID at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, when did you shoot it then? You shot it in 2019?
I shot it in August to September 2019.
Finished just in time.
I started post-production, and I finished post-production in September 2020.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it was a full year of post.
Exactly.
Now, why did you? What was your purpose in giving yourself the extra time?
You mean which extra time?
What was your? Did COVID play into the editing process? Were things challenging in the post-production process?
COVID played a role, because we were all confused of like, what is this? What do we have to do?
Yeah.
And stuff like this. But no, I think it's because editing a feature was the first time for me, and it was such a massive thing to do. I didn't have pressure as well. Like, I didn't have somebody to tell me you have to finish.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because you guys, there was a ton of great B-roll, lots of great insert shots. Did you really plan ahead? Did you guys do a ton of storyboarding, or how did you go about making sure that you had enough footage?
Well, I actually went to pick up a couple of shots after.
You did? Okay.
Yes, a couple of shots, but we had a lot of material, to be honest. As you can see, like in the film, we had the time, I think, to shoot the scenes where we could have taken different things and different shots, because most of like, there is a lot of dialogue in the film, but there is a lot of non-dialogue as well. When he's alone, when he's spying on this woman, if we can reveal that.
As much as you want to say.
Exactly. No, but yeah, so we had the time to pick up a lot of extra shots. Yes, it was a question of understanding what can work, what cannot work. And
how long was your shooting? How many days did you shoot?
23 days.
23 days. Nice.
Yeah.
Now, was that what you planned, or did you run over? Did you finish early?
We planned for 23 days. Yes.
Nice.
So we finished perfectly on time. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
It was really, to be honest, I was really lucky. We didn't have major issues. We could have had, but we didn't. Luckily, yeah.
That's awesome. Now let's go back then. Now, when did you first decide that you wanted to get into the film industry?
Well, there is a moment when I was 16, 17. I was watching Pulp Fiction, and yeah, and I remember the scene at the beginning when they talk about foot massage, and they're going to to kill these guys, to get the money back, or to kill these guys. The Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta at the beginning.
Yeah.
They start talking about burgers and then foot massage and all of that.
Can I share one thing? I just wrote a short film called Double Double with Cheese.
Yeah.
It was inspired by that scene. I love that scene. So continue. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of that scene.
I was like, I watched that scene and I watched them arrive in front of the door, and I remember they arrive in front of the door, they look at the watch, and they go like, "It's not time yet,"
Yeah.
and they move a bit further out, and they keep talking, and I'm like, "This is genius! It's like
Yeah.
this is showing me the humanity, of two criminals in some way," and
Exactly.
I love that, and that's when I decided to become an actor. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but
No.
that's was my first dream, let's say.
Yeah.
So that's why I studied acting, all of that.
Yeah.
And
That's great.
and then like as an actor, I started writing, and the first thing I wrote, I was in it
Yeah.
as a character,
Yeah.
and so I said, okay, I'm not gonna direct it even because I didn't have experience, and I let a friend direct it. And obviously, even if I wrote it, when somebody else directs it, it's a different vision, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And I felt like so bad about it. I felt like I wanted to tell a story. That's the objective for me, is to be a storyteller and to tell
Yeah.
a story in a certain way. And if I didn't have control over that, I was not happy. I couldn't. I didn't want to write at that point. You know,
I
I
completely
needed.
understand.
You see, yeah,
I had a short film that I wrote, and I gave it to a friend, and it wasn't bad, but it was in no way what I visualized, and I was
yeah,
just, it was just painful to watch, you know, because it went.
yeah,
I wanted to go this way, and it went this way, and I've had a lot of people that I've worked with that it is great. It's a different, but it's still great. But this one, it went this way, and I was just like, ah.
yeah.
So you started writing, and you felt this feeling. How did you? Is that when you started getting into directing yourself as well?
In that moment, I didn't really know it in that moment, but slowly I understood that I needed the control over the directing. Because I wanted to at least, control the vision and be like, okay, this is, even because like stories, it's really important the perspective you take, the mood, and
Yeah.
as you said before, it completely changes everything. I imagine like if I would have given this film Framed to another director, it would have been a completely different film.
I mean, like,
And
imagine Pulp Fiction if Tim Burton shot it. You
yeah,
know? It's like, what? It would be, completely different. The color tones, the approach, everything. It'd just be unrecognizable. Tarantino has that thing that is his,
yeah,
and so I
exactly.
totally understand.
So I started at that point. I started to explore. I bought a camera that it was a Blackmagic. So I'm a big fan of Blackmagic.
I love Black Magic.
The pocket one, the first one that
Yeah,
came out.
the original one. That was a great little
Yeah,
camera.
I bought that one, and I didn't even know that I needed to color the footage because instead of,
I feel you. You're like,
you know
what?
what I mean. So if you see like some short movies I made early days, they are completely not colored because I didn't know. I learned after, and I started making videos for companies and
Yep.
for anybody who wanted a video really.
Yeah.
And I learned slowly, and from there I took the first short movie I did. There is a poster here.
Yeah.
It's called Shush,
Nice.
and that was my first directing. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try, and it worked well. It did really well. It went all over the place as well, and so I was happy.
Yeah.
So I kept going. I was writing this film. My first feature film took 6 years to write.
Oh wow.
And I wanted to talk to you about writing because for me it's like
I'd
the
love
most
to. Yeah.
difficult thing of all of the things I've tried.
Yeah.
It's definitely the one that is the most challenging, but the most beautiful at the same time.
Let's dive into that. How is it challenging for you?
Well, I think good writing has to be personal in some way.
Yeah.
To touch some chords and to be personal, you have to have the courage to go there and actually put into paper things that in some way represent you, or they talk about something that you have lived, or I don't know. It's you have to go inside yourself. I feel to really pull out a good script, and that's difficult. Like the first film I wrote that I've never done, And that's why I wrote Framed, because the first film I wrote, it was too difficult to produce. It was like 23 locations, like 30 actors. It was too much,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, I need something to produce that is smaller. So I started writing. That's the first time I wrote something with an intention. That was like, okay, it has to be easy to, and it was easier in some way because I had some boundaries. You know, I couldn't cross some lines. I couldn't think of things that they were too difficult, you know, to then produce. So, so that's what I mean when we were talking before about the free time or having a lot of time to write something,
Yeah.
and like, you know, not having pressure to write something.
Yeah.
It's easier with pressure sometimes
Yeah.
to complete the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, writing is definitely the most difficult, but the most exciting and the one that I like the most
Nice.
to do. But you know, because you're a writer as well, so you know what I'm talking about.
I do. It's also though, but you know, I remember one of the first screenplays I wrote. My first feature that I wrote that I haven't shot yet, because when I went through it I was working with a production company here, and I got to be paired up with this great producer here in Vietnam, and she's just this absolutely amazing producer, and really famous for being a script doctor as well. And she sat me down and she was like, these are your locations. These locations are really hard. And I had this one scene that we were in a hospital, you know, and I had this vision of like, you're pushing down the hallway and you see the sick people, and she's like, no, you know. And then I was like, there was like a scene in a club, you know, where everyone's dancing, and she's like, do you know how many extras you're gonna have on that? And I was just like, man, but it's needed, you know. And, you know, she's like, yeah, and you're not gonna get it made, you know. And it was like, just like, you know, so it was something I had to really pare back, and the paring back, the cutting back, that was to be able to get it made it so that it wasn't the same script. And
Absolutely.
so at that point in time, I just said, I'm going to set it back here. When I get more stuff under my belt done, you know, when I have more experience and I have, you know, the time and the money invested, I can dive into that. But right now it's not the time, you know, and that's okay. It's okay to step back, because sometimes you have to be true to the vision you have, even if it's something you can't make right now, you know, because if you change it entirely, it's a different movie. So,
Well, I tell you something interesting about this, because when I write, knowing that I'm directing it as well and possibly producing it, it has an impact on my writing, and it
Yes.
shouldn't. In the sense that it should. I mean, I cannot write something that I'm not gonna be able to produce.
Yeah.
But if this impact that it has, it goes beyond just the ability of producing it or not, but it becomes influenced by, are you able to do that? Are you afraid of the fact that you're not going to be able to do that? That is no good, because you should be free as a writer, you know, to write
to
the
write
story.
whatever. Yeah, whatever
Exactly.
comes into your mind, you should write it, instead of the process of kind of constraining yourself. But it's an interesting thing. I remember one exercise that one of my teachers in school had a long time ago in university, but it was a creative writing class. And what they would do that was really interesting is we would start a story, and then we would share with our partner, and that partner would then introduce, like, you know, a challenge, you know, like, you know, and now deal with this. And it was just like, oh my God, you just, you know, messed up my story flow. But it was interesting because it made it special. It made it different. I come from the I trained with the Ivana Chubbuck style of acting, and you know, her stuff comes from
Stanislavski,
Stanislavski and Stella Adler, and you know, and essentially it all traces back, you know. But it was interesting because one of the things that, you know, we talk about is like, so say say I have a movie where, my wife is at the top of an apartment building with my daughter and I need to go rescue them, Well, if I walk over, press the elevator button, and get out, get to the top floor, walk out, get them and come back down. That's a pretty boring movie, you know what I mean? I mean, it's a pretty horrible movie. So, you got to throw in the obstacles, It's like, okay, so the power's out. So I got to walk up the damn building, get them and come down. Well, power's out and there's zombies. Now we've got a movie. You know what I mean? And the idea that, these obstacles that we give our characters really enriches a story. And I look at, and I try to think of it in my own life, that these obstacles that I face in making a project enrich my story too, So it's sometimes I think about that that way. So that helps me. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that then you have like outside obstacle and you have internal obstacle as well.
Yes.
Because the guy that goes up in the elevator, maybe, he's feeling in a certain way about this whole situation. So, but you need them because otherwise it becomes too easy.
Exactly. Your story is just way too easy. Now, so you then, I'm going to go back. You had this Tarantino. You were watching Pulp Fiction. You decided to get into film. Were there any films, other things early in your life that really influenced you, that really drove you towards film?
I have 3 favorite films. I like to think that there are 3 favorite films, but one is Pulp Fiction, the other one is The Blues Brothers, and then Casablanca.
Oh, great movie.
So, and as you can see, like they're all different. Pulp Fiction is one style, Blues Brothers another, and Casablanca is a love story. So I wouldn't know where I picked up what and how. I think it's a lot of what I want to do is related or influenced by my acting background and maybe being in scenes and trying to work with that, with words, and that's why if you watch Framed is really theatrical at the end of the day, because there is a lot of conversation. But yeah, my 3 favorite films: The Blues Brothers, Pulp Fiction, and Casablanca, for sure.
Those are awesome. I was thinking, as you said that, I was trying to think, you pop into my head and think what mine were, and I couldn't think of 3. I have one that I really love. I was like, I'm a huge fan of The Last of the Mohicans. With Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah. And then I'm a huge Daniel Day-Lewis fan, and I was just going to dive into my next one would be Gangs of New York.
Yeah.
Love Gangs of New York. And I would say my 3rd favorite would be, of course, I stick with Americana because I love Seven Samurai, but No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. I can see from your choices that you're an actor.
Yeah. I am.
They're all movies that have a really good acting and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis is just...
It's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Yeah. My dream would be to be able to be in a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis. Oh, I don't know what I'd do though. One of the things that I noticed, I got to work on some big movies in LA, and when I was on set, I was working on the movie Angels and Demons with Ron Howard and Tom Hanks. I got to work on that. I worked as a stand-in. Don't think I was anything special. Yeah. I got to work. I was a background actor. That was when I first moved to LA, and I got on as a background actor. And then I made friends with the production team, and they brought me on to work as a stand-in. So it was actually this amazing experience where I got to essentially, it was like this internship that I got paid. I got to watch the whole team work for 5 months, just watching Ron Howard. It was fantastic. Everything that I know for behind the camera now comes from that experience, But one of the things I noticed on that movie was that so many of the actors were acting opposite Tom Hanks, not acting opposite Robert Langdon. And that was something that I noticed because Tom Hanks, that's Tom Hanks, It's like you're suddenly in this scene with this super famous actor. But they should have been in the scene with Robert Langdon.
Of course.
And does that you know what I mean? Because Tom Hanks is intimidating. Tom Hanks is this famous person, but Robert Langdon is just this symbology professor. And that always comes back to me as an actor, that you have to differentiate between the person and the character. And I think that that's a thing that people don't have to think about until they're standing face to face with Daniel Day-Lewis or whoever else it is that is so just like, wow, you know, a commanding presence, you know.
And that doesn't help with the acting at all. Because
at all. At all.
Yeah.
Not at all. You know, it's just, you know, and I think that that's what comes with experience. But, you know, even experienced actors on that set, I could see were acting opposite Tom Hanks, and it was interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
It was just something I noticed on that. But I want to ask you a question. Like, if you could go back in time to young Nick, what advice would you give him as he embarks on this journey?
Oof, that's a difficult question. Well, what I came up with in my mind is to have more courage, because I feel like creativity in general, the main obstacle is fear. And that is like a reasonable fear to have, because you're, you know, putting yourself in a game in some way. But you have to be able to fight that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would tell myself just to have more courage and maybe do things earlier, or do things that you're scared about. That's the main advice I would give to myself. Yeah.
That's great advice. Now let's. Well, go ahead.
What about you? I want to know. I want to know about you.
What would I do? What would I do? I wouldn't want to change too much because I'm happy with my life, and I mean, for me, yeah, I'll tell you what it would be. Turn every obstacle into your advantage. Turn every obstacle that you face into something that can be something you can use for a positive, you know? I remember when I moved up to LA 2018, and I was just getting started, or 2008, and I was just getting started in acting. I was like, I'm going to do this. And I'm in LA. And then in the film industry, just essentially the financial crisis hit. I actually moved up in 2007. And then the financial crisis hit, and all of the acting left LA because the business was still there, but all the productions were going to Atlanta and New Orleans. It was really leaving, and stuff was going back to the UK as well. They were shooting more there. And then I was just like, what am I going to do now? And so I got behind the camera, and, you know, I was shooting, you know, a ton of new media, and I've been doing that for 15 years, working with, you know, music videos, and my specialty for a long time has been doing social media and new media for actors and singers and such. And that's what I've been doing in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. But I think I would just tell myself is like, never stop hustling, never stop trying, and anytime that you get knocked down, you get up and try harder. I think that would be what I would tell myself. Come back swinging.
It's a difficult road.
It is. But if you don't take chances, you never have the ability to succeed. Which is like what you said. Don't be afraid. You try.
Yeah.
Be
courageous. Yeah.
All right. One last question for you.
Yeah.
You've got Aladdin's lamp. What would you wish for your next step?
Aladdin's lamp. Well, I'm writing my next film, so all my attention and all my dreams are related to that, and to the making of that. So I just like to have an easy time. I know that it's not gonna happen, but to have an easy way to produce it, to do it in the way that I've visioned it, that would be the best thing. And to make another one.
It's awesome.
I've finished writing. I mean, I've had the first draft. I finished the first draft last week.
Awesome.
And
congratulations.
So it's there.
It's there.
So,
you got that. Now you just gotta revise it and fine tune it. But finishing a first draft. I remember when I finished my first draft of a feature, and I was just like, oh. It was just amazing to be able to sit there and see it, and you're like, I wrote this. And it's special.
For me, it was a bit different because when I read it, I was like, it's not good. First thing I thought, and then I checked on my computer, on my laptop, there is a post-it that says
Yeah.
the first draft is gonna be shit.
100%.
It's okay.
It's 100%. 100%. Well, that's awesome, man. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I appreciate your time and coming on and chatting with me tonight. So,
Well, thank you for having me.
do you have any last thoughts for anybody watching that you might want to share? Anything inspiring or, along those lines?
What would I say? Well, I mean, again, like for me, I'm, well, if the focus of the podcast is creativity, what I would say is that it's the main obstacle that you're gonna face. It's internal. It's
100%.
about getting over that fear, and there is no other as big obstacle as that one. Then there are a lot of other obstacles, but that is the main obstacle to face. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate it. And I'm so thankful that you agreed to come on my podcast. So
Thank you so much for having
thanks,
me.
brother.